What's up, y'all? Welcome to Flames Reaction Channel. So today's video, I'm getting ready to react MC Hammer. So with that being said, make sure you hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. Let's go ahead and check out some of the greatest moments of MC Hammer and in hip hop.
Now, I just moved to a city known as Hamilton, so it truly is hammer time for me day in, day out. 8 days a week, without the band stuff. Now, prior to You Can't Touch This, well, sure, there have been popular rap songs and albums, but no one had ever managed to truly bring hip-hop to the mainstream. Enter the unlikeliest of heroes, a man named MC Hammer. Now, while dressed in one of the most flamboyant pair of parachute pants you've ever seen, well, this young man sampled hooks from other sources left and right, turning his natural talent as a dancer into a career of a performer, the likes of which we've seldom seen since. Hell, at the time of its release, his sophomore album, Please Hammer, Don't Hurt 'Em, well, it somehow went on to become the best-selling rap album ever. Now, in the process, Hammer earned himself a $33 million empire. But only a handful of years later, he declared bankruptcy as his spending spiraled totally out of control. Now, if you ever wondered how he spent all that money, you're going to find out in this video. But until we get there, place your guesses in the comments down below. Now let's get into today's Where Are They Now video. MC Hammer was born Stanley Kirk Burrell on March 30th, 1962 in Oakland, California. Now, growing up in an extremely religious family, Hammer, he would land a job as a bat boy for the local Oakland Athletics, which is a baseball team where he would entertain audiences during breaks with his dancing. Now, in fact, he was such a regular around the team that Reggie Jackson, he actually gave him the nickname Hammer for his resemblance to the all-time home run leader. We're talking about Hammer and Hank Aaron. Now, outside of his passion for baseball, Hammer, he also loved soul music. Now, after catching James Brown performing at the Apollo on television when he was only 3 years old, Hammer immediately began emulating his musical idol. That's actually one of my favorite things in show business. The whole James Brown, I'm working myself to death bit. We never made a video on James Brown. I really wish we did. Now, after cutting his teeth on funk and soul, Hammer, he gravitated towards hip-hop. Now, once he had finished spending 3 years in the Navy, Hammer would return to civilian life and he'd begin chasing his dreams of making music. Now, that's when he started performing at local clubs, and with the help of some of his former friends in the Oakland Athletics, he was able to finance the creation of his own record label called Busted Records. Now, Hammer recorded his very first studio album, Feel My Power, in 1987. Now, that project, it would make an impression on execs over at Capitol Records, who then signed him to a multi-album deal, the first of which is a reworked version of Feel My Power, now titled Let's Get It Started. Now, thanks to the R&B hit Turn This Mother Out, Let's Get Started would go double platinum and kick off Hammer's career on the right foot. But as impressive as his debut album was, it wouldn't hold a candle to what came next. Hammer's second album for Capitol would turn into his masterpiece. Released in 1990, Please Hammer, Don't Hurt 'Em, it would become the first hip-hop album to ever sell more than 10 million copies. Now, how did he do it? Come on, you already know the answer. You can't touch this. Now, of course you know the song, You Can't Touch This, but you might not know that this was a blatant ripoff of Rick James's seminal hit, Super Freak. Well, if you didn't know, now you do. Now, most people, they didn't actually care at the time, but soon enough they would. And, the track, it was just goddamn too catchy. Everyone became obsessed with MC Hammer. Now, the single would dominate the radio and MTV on its path to winning 2 Grammys for Best R&B Song, as well as Best Solo Rap Performance. Now, Hammer's next 2 singles, Have You Seen Her?, which was a full-on cover of the Chai Lights original ballad, as well as Pray, which contained the hook from Prince's When Doves Cry, they would continue his reliance on other people's music to produce his own hits. Yet, both of these tracks followed You Can't Touch This onto the top 10. But then the backlash, it would hit. After 3 immensely popular singles, none of which contained much in the way of original composition from the man himself, critics began to refer to Hammer's frequent use of sampling as something more akin to stealing. And then there were those hip-hop purists who almost never took Hammer seriously enough to begin with, who continually pointed out his simplistic and at times, repetitive lyrics. You can't please everyone, but when the mob outweighs the fans, things get ugly. Once the tried-and-true entertainment merchandising machine cooked into capitalizing on Hammer's mainstream appeal, this resulted in MC Hammer dolls and even Saturday morning cartoon shows. I mean, Hollywood was pushing him forward, but people were saying enough is enough. And it seemed at this point in time, well, almost everyone had their fill of MC Hammer. In other words, it was time for a break. And as a means to retaliate against the criticism, well, Hammer would drop the MC from his moniker and implement more live instrumentation into his music. And while his third studio album, 1991's Too Legit to Quit, sold relatively well, at this point, Hammer's reach, it had exceeded his grasp. Now, his fifth studio album, The Funky Headhunter, would be his last to go platinum, and a year later, when he dropped his Inside Out in 1995, would be the final time an album of Hammer's would ever chart. At the height of his power and popularity, Hammer had earned himself a net worth estimated to be around $33 million. Now, he employed a staff of close to 200 people, and he rolled with an entourage that was said to be at least 40 deep. Now, with all of those people in his orbit, Hammer was paying close to $500,000 a month just to support his entire crew. And of course, as someone who broke new ground on the musical front, he wasn't content with simply living in some sprawling estate that already existed. Not at all. Instead, he'd break new ground again, this time in the hills above the neighborhood that he grew up in a 40,000 square foot home that would wind up costing him an unbelievable $30 million to build. Yeah, for those of you keeping track, that's basically all he had plus 6 months. So, the guy spent it all. He also established the Oaktown Stable, which would house 19 thoroughbred horses, including the colt named Dance Floor, who finished third at the 1992 Kentucky Derby. Meanwhile, Hammer, he was dropping millions on Lamborghinis, private jets, helicopters, and even a stretch limo. Basically, Hammer, he was living the life he always wanted to live, and even for someone as successful as he was, it was still beyond his means. In 1996, he officially declared for bankruptcy.
But am I broke by these hardworking people, everyday people? No, I'm not broke by that standard, and it's kind of unfair to other people, I'm not broke by that. Yeah.
Now, as you might imagine, this new development, it hit Hammer hard. Now, it also prompted something of a harkening back to his roots and a religious awakening. Now, afterwards, he began writing new material with an emphasis on spirituality and his family. In 1998, he recorded an album titled Family Affair that was slated for release on his own label, but after 1,000 copies were pressed, the album release was canceled and the project, it's barely seen the light of day. That's outside of, some hard-to-find internet versions. After that, several more projects were rumored to be in the works, but none ever manifested until the early 2000s, when Hammer would release a string of independent projects with titles like Active Duty, Full Blast, Look, 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 and Dance Jam the Music. Now, none of it was particularly successful. Thankfully, Hammer, he still had one last card to play. Now, beyond reinventing himself as a minister, Hammer would also use what little money he had left from his run on top of the charts to invest in some technology startups. Now, Hammer says that he first became interested in tech companies while filming a music video back in the early 90s. Now, that's when someone told him that music videos would eventually find their way onto the internet. Now, ever since then, Hammer, he's kept his eyes open for potential investment opportunities, and he claims that he was even there to lend some cash to the birth of both YouTube and Twitter.
And so I was like, all right, I'm going to be the first to get it right with video over the internet before Prince do it, or before Michael do it, or before Janet do it. So anyway.
Now, all of that is to say, little by little, Hammer eventually rebuilt his financial empire. Sure, it never reached the same heights as it once did in the early 90s, but now that Hammer had grown so much as both a man and an artist, he's in a much better place to navigate the rest of his financial life. Now, he's also recently taken the opportunity to share some of his knowledge and remind us that he's a deep thinker as well. Now, when one Twitter user last month posted the idea that philosophy is nothing more than a flirtation with ideas while science is commitment to the truth, Hammer came flying in off the top rope, reminding us all that when you measure, include the measurer. That is deep. For me. I think what he's trying to get at, as he points out in this tweet, the history of science has been plagued for centuries with individuals perpetuating non-truths. There needs to be a balance. As for whether or not Hammer is ultimately happy with how his life and his career played out, he says that he really wouldn't want things to have turned out any other way. Now, a few years ago, in fact, he told Oprah, "My real true answer is I wouldn't change one thing. I really believe in the butterfly effect, meaning that if I change one thing, everything else changes. So I'm very happy with my decision." Every once in a while, Hammer, he'll pop up out of the blue with a new track, like Raider Nation in 2014, and an updated version of his 1990 song Help the Children in 2017. Now you can also catch him over on Instagram, where he regularly posts updates on his whereabouts and the occasional throwback clip from his days when he was at the top of the industry. But no matter what he's doing, well, it's simply good to see that MC Hammer, he isn't nearly as dead or buried as many people seem to assume. Now, sure, he might still be remembered best for losing all that money and, well, making parachute pants a thing. And that's a gag sometimes he's still got to run with. But hey, at least the guy's still got a sense of humor. As for where MC Hammer pops up next, well, I guess that's a story for another time, because this is Where Are They Now? My name is Mike McCrudden, and
All right, y'all. That's it for this video. I'm out. Peace.